I think we're on. I think we're on live now. And so, yeah, we're going to get this evening started, this event. Thank you all again for tuning in this evening for another um, episode of the live virtual poetry reading series. Um, My name is Dawson Davenport. I'm going to be your host for this evening. I'm also the creator of this poetry reading series. Um, this is an idea that I came up with because I had been seeing a lot of indigenous communities throughout the country going through being highly affected by the COVID-19 virus. And so I felt like I had a platform to use. I wanted to be able to use it and showcase indigenous artists. So that's what this came about, was using and trying to inspire other artists to be a part of this art gallery that I have going on here. So I thank you all for tuning in again this evening. We got a great lineup. I'm very excited for who we have here um, this evening for the third edition of the Indigenous People's Gallery uh, Stay Home Virtual Poetry Reading. Again, please tell your friends and relatives to like the page and to follow us and be a part of all the artwork and artists that we have going on here. Again, we also have a call out to Indigenous artists. If you want to be exclusively showcased on the Stay Home Virtual Poetry Reading Series, submit your biography and a video of your work to indigenousartalliance@gmail.com, and we'll have our people take a look at that. And then we'll reach out to you. The first 5 people selected will get a signed autographed book by author poet Tanea Winder, who was on last Saturday. So get those videos in. We'll get take a look at them and get back to you. And the first 5 people selected will get a book from Tanea Winder. So um, be sure to share that with people. You got friends and relatives out there who are um, aspiring poets, people who want to, show the work. Hit us up at Indigenous Art Alliance at gmail.com. Gmail.com. So again, um, support Indigenous artists, support the Indigenous People's Art Gallery and Cafe. We got some great events coming up next week. And we got some art coming out. I got some things I'm still working on. I know last week I kind of talked about putting some out this week, but it's taken me a little bit to get those finished. So I'll have those out this week and let you all see what I've been working on. Thanks to the Riverview Art Salon for supporting me as an artist and sharing this event with everybody. And shout out to all the other people, Little Village, for again supporting Indigenous arts. Um, so with that, we're gonna get into our event here. Again, like I said, we have a list of great poets tonight, great people here who are going to share their work, and I'm really excited to have them here with us. So before we get into our first reader for the night, I like to get into a poem. Again, I like to share and promote the idea to our artists out there to keep creating through this pandemic. Like I said before, Iowa doesn't have a stay at home, a shelter in place order. So I'm just encouraging people to keep creating. We got to take it upon ourselves to do our part and stay home. So one of the things I try to do is uh, encourage artists out there to keep creating, throughout the week, paint, write, whatever medium that you use. Uh, um, if you create music, whatever it is, do that and just stay home. Protect our elders, protect our youth, our most vulnerable. We got a lot of sick people in our communities, so we got to do our part as young people to protect our communities. And one of the ways is by staying home. So before we get into all of that, and our first reader of the night, I want to kick off this new poem that I wrote actually just before this event here. I was drawing, I was outside, and I kind of was thinking about some things, and this is the poem that I wrote. And finally starting to title my poem. So this poem right here is called Lessons as a Child. Plant corn, make fire, cut wood, haul water, sit still and listen. My elbows resting on my thighs, looking down at my shoes, I wiggle my toes. The dirt looks holy for some reason. I laid on the couch until they came home. We put it on the porch some time ago. The sun was nice and warm. It was quiet, but I could hear the future. My adolescent mind could actually hear the dissonance, like that pause in a song, that painful gesture. I must have fell asleep because I woke up and the stars were out. I sat up and after a minute, I saw lights coming up that crooked road. I was elated. Bingo must have been over. So again, yeah, that was just a poem reflecting and thinking about growing up, some of the things that, we experience here as a Midwestern tribe living here on the Meskwaki settlement. So that was just a little poem I threw together for this evening. With that, I'm excited and honored and privileged to announce our first reader here. She comes a long way from the Northwest region of the country. Our first reader, Chelsea Hendrickson, is a member of the Northern Arapaho tribe and also the member of the, K-Pac people from Alaska. She works full-time as a program assistant of the Calic Indian tribe, and for the Pathways to Healing program. She's also done a lot of work and awareness about MMIW and community organizing up in the Seattle, Washington area. She's also done a lot of work, social work in that area. So please give it up for our first reader, Chelsea Hendrickson.
Dos be sihi ne ta ena hititi da u sini nanana na hase hise na anagach henini a behina da han da na da ni thini. Hello, all my relatives. Good afternoon. My name is Chelsea Hendrickson. I'm Northern Arapaho and Chupich. I know those are some hard words to say, Dawson, so don't even chip, you know what I mean? Chupich. I'm glad to be here with you all. I just want to say thank you, Haho, Goyana, to Dawson Davenport and the Indigenous Peoples Art Gallery and Cafe all the way in Iowa City, Iowa. I just wanted to do a quick intro in Hanane-Ati, which is the Northern Arapaho language. And I also want to start off, before I get into my little poems and storytelling, to do a quick land acknowledgement. I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm honored and privileged to live here in the beautiful Duwamish territory, traditional lands of the Duwamish people, the Duwamish tribe, here in the Seattle, Washington area. I love the beautiful lands up here, you know, mild temperatures, got the Salish Sea right out here, surrounded by water. You know, I'm a Pisces, you know what I mean? So I tend to gravitate towards water. So it's not a surprise that I live in this beautiful rainforest type, mossy, damp, wet climate, you know what I'm saying? I love living in Seattle area, Duwamish territory. So I just want to give thanks to those people, the first peoples of this land. So who I am, Dawson tapped into a little bit of who I am, but since I got a little platform, you know, I'll try to stay humble or whatever. My name's Chelsea Hendrickson. Like Dawson said, I'm an enrolled member of the Northern Arapaho tribe, Hanana of the Wind River Indian Reservation in Ethity, Wyoming. If you've never been to Wyoming before, I would definitely highly encourage everybody to go. Yellowstone, even more in particular. Yellowstone is my tribe's like backyard. It's about 2 hours away from my reservation. And it's like my favorite place in the world, the Tetons, Yellowstone. I like to describe it like low-key as like Lord of the Rings. Like you drive through and you see like boiling pots of mud, and then you hit a corner, then there's like a huge buffalo, you know, buffaloes everywhere. It's like the ecology of like a super volcano will blow your mind. But anyways, Wyoming is beautiful country. Our nickname for it is God's country, and there's definitely reasons behind that. If you've never been there, I highly encourage you to go. I miss it terribly all the time. Like I said, I do love the water and the rain, but my heart stays aching for my homelands in Wyoming, God's country. And I'm also Chupich, and that's Alaska Native from Nunivak Island, Alaska. I'm also a Chalista Corporation shareholder. And I know that's an interesting like Arctic Plains mix, but I'll get more into that later. You'll definitely find out later why I'm this random mix. So my grandmother is Lillian Amos of Ethity, Wyoming. She's Northern Arapaho and Grovant. Her parents were Arlo Amos and Mary Hendricks. I was gifted my Northern Arapaho name, Nahase Hise, by my grandfather, Felix Grossbeck, and that translates to sweet sage woman. My grandfather is Philip Hendrickson Sr. of Makoriak, Alaska. Philip's parents were Kay Hendrickson Sr., Gowigoch, and Bernice Hendrickson, Jukgoch. I was gifted my Chupich name by my Uppa. My Chupich name is Anagach. And this is a common Chupich name. It's been passed down in my family. It was my grandmother's name. So I was born in Seattle, Washington, and I was raised back and forth between Washington and my tribal communities in Wyoming and Alaska my whole life. I graduated from James A. Garfield High School in Central District, Wyoming, go Bulldogs. I'm a Bulldog, but I've always wished that I was a Chief. Shout out Wyoming Indian Chiefs, State Champs 2020, Chiefs. I've lived in Tukwila the last 6 years, and prior to that, I was living and working in Riverton, Wyoming. I personally know that I have big mucklucks and moccasins to fill. Both sides of my family were keepers of ceremony, language, culture, and stories. I descend from master mask carvers, authors, board directors, and quillwork matriarchs. Dawson already tapped in a little bit what I do. Like he said, I work full time for the Cowlitz Indian tribe. That's a Coast Salish tribe up here in the Northwest. Their tribal reservation and hub is located like 20 minutes north of Portland. I'm about 2 hours north of Portland. So they have health and human services for a 10-county span in 2 states. So the Cowlitz Indian tribe is really on the forefront of what it means to serve Indian country, just based off the fact that they don't only serve their own tribe and their own near the reservation, they're serving all over the Coast Salish country, north and south. So I love working for them. I worked for them for about 4 years now. And within that, I'm a program assistant for the Pathways to Healing program. The Pathways to Healing program is a domestic violence sexual assault program for Native families who are experiencing not only those 2 things, but we also advocate for anybody experiencing human trafficking and elder abuse. So I started that job, excuse me, when I was about 27, 28. So fairly young, I'm 31 now, about 3 years in the DVSA field. And I've definitely learned a lot, not only about who I am, but my own voice as a woman and the Native communities I serve on an even more in-depth level. So it's an honor to be, and a privilege in that same context to do that work that I do and serve Indian country in that way. And I take it seriously. I definitely have a passion for that. My second job, I'm a youth advocate for United Indians of All Tribes Foundation here in Seattle, Washington. And if nobody knows who that is, if we got people tuning in from all over Indian country and you want to learn more about Pacific Northwest Coast country or natives, I would definitely Google the takeover of Fort Lawton. It was a huge movement back in the 1970s that goes right hand in hand with the fishing wars, you know, Alcatraz, AIM, you know, that was happening up. So it's also an honor for me to be part of, you know, United Indians of All Tribes, not only based off that history, but to work in their youth home that's been open for the past 25 years. It's called Labatia, and in Coast Salish language, it translates to the transformer. And it's a 25-bed co-ed transitional housing for Native youth, age range 18 to 24. So I'm not much older than them, like I said, but I've worked for them for the past 6 years, and I love what they stand for. I love their legacy, and I love working there. So shout out to Cowlitz and Labatia. Currently, I am working those two jobs. I have a little cohort. I've been attempting to get back into school. I'm pursuing my Associates of Arts at South Seattle College. And the reason why I'm here today, I just want to share some poetry and stories. I just want to start off with the poems first, and then I'll go into the stories behind the poems, where the inspiration came from these poems and how they came to be. But I won't keep you guys here all day, so I'll get straight into it. So the first one I'm gonna read is called Quarantine Love, and I did it in honor of this event, and I literally just finished the poem today. It's like, I thrive in, how you say, procrastination. That's like how I thrive. Like I wait till the last minute, the last hour before I gotta do anything, and then I write it. So Quarantine Love. Community hour at the Cushman Indian Hospital. The most beautiful Indian woman I have ever seen. I knew we were separated by gender, but I had seen you in here a couple times before, and I thought you looked real keen. Same diagnosis, same love scar, tuberculosis, smallpox, coronavirus. Not even this quarantine could keep our love apart or far. I looked down at my hospital slippers, then looked back up at your choked cherry eyes. You leaned in and softly touched my hand, told me you liked me too, and then I was hypnotized. Time healed the scars left on our lungs and on our back. When I picked you up the day you were discharged from the hospital, I said, come on, baby, it's time to grow our love together, and we never looked back. That was 68 years ago, the day I met you and fell in love, but it might as well be time immemorial. It has created a ripple effect stronger than any disease. Bani ken come ken, bicha thethin, my love, you will always be the only cure I will ever need. And this poem is dedicated to my grandparents, Philip Hendrickson Sr. and Lillian Esther Amos. They met in 1952 while quarantined at the Cushman Hospital here in Tacoma, Washington. So I'll give you the quick lowdown of Quarantine Love. Obviously, this is probably the most perfect time to write a story about viruses and how they're affecting Indian country, right? So I'm very thankful and lucky to still have my 86-year-old grandfather here with me on Earth. He lives not like 20 minutes away with me in the Central District with my mom. And I love my Uppa, you know what I mean? If anybody knows me, they know like I love spending time with my Uppa and I love hearing his stories. Unfortunately, my grandmother passed when I was about 9 years old, over 20 years ago. So everything, you know, almost like a lot of the things I know about my grandmother, I ask him about her, all the stories and whatnot. So of course I didn't think I asked him the story. I didn't find out till like maybe about 5 years ago, like the details of this story. Like that's how they met, but I never thought too hard about it. So of course I asked him, you know, how'd you guys meet? So my Uppa told me that in 1952, he was like 19 years old. He was living in Nunivak Island, Alaska. He knew he wanted to do something with his life and he wanted to join the military. So he flew down to Anchorage to get his to get his the test, the physical test for the Marines, I believe. And they said, you know, we're sorry, sir. We're sorry to inform you that you've tested positive for tuberculosis, and you know we're gonna have to send you back up to the village, back to Nunivak Island, for the rest of his family. Unfortunately, my Uppa did his homework, and he knew that, you know, sadly, not only had his mother like 2 years before that, but also his 19-year-old sister 3 years before that both died of tuberculosis. Tuberculosis was rampant going through the villages up in Alaska in 1952, along with other smallpox and other things that were happening. So he knew that if he went back to the village that he was probably gonna die. So he had done some research. He knew there was an Indian hospital down here in Tacoma, Washington, that were treating natives with tuberculosis. So he told the doctor, he said, no, can you please send me to this hospital? I don't want to go back to my village. Basically, he had to fight them and be very persistent because they didn't want to send him. They were, you know, he wasn't worth that. They just wanted to send him back to his village. He had to be very diligent in coming down here. So he was transferred down here. And he told me that, like, I think 3 months after he had got here, there was, so Cushman Indian Hospital was a huge facility, and they were separated by male and female dorms, and it was obviously all Indian hospital. And once a month, they would have community hours of community rooms where the native men and the native women were able to like come together and hang out or chop it up or whatever. They were all infected anyway, so there wasn't necessarily quarantine from them being together, but obviously quarantine from the outside world. And I guess, you know, I was asking him just random details, like, what were you guys wearing? We were street clothes, and he told me like once you got there, you weren't necessarily like in a hospital gown, like your booty wasn't hanging out, but like it was something similar to that, like maybe a gown and pants and like slippers or something. So he was telling me like he noticed my grandma like on the first community room, maybe on his second month. I think she got there before him, and maybe about like that third month or something, he was like, ready, okay, I'm gonna go talk to your grandma. So I guess he walked up to her and was like, ma'am, like tapped on her shoulder, you know, one night in the quarantine hospital. It was like, ma'am, hi there, my name's Philip Hendrickson. You know, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, and I just want to let you know that you're the most beautiful Indian woman I've ever seen in my life. And like, when we get out of here, when we get cured of like tuberculosis, like, can I take you on a date? And apparently my grandma was like, you know, thank you. Like, oh, thank you. Of course, sure. Yeah, let's sign up for our surgeries, and you know, let's get out here. Let's, you know, and somehow they courted each other and they created a relationship. So 1952 is totally, it seems normal, right? They didn't have the same technologies and whatnot that we do today. So in 1952, when you got to the hospital, you had to sign up on a list. If you had tuberculosis, you had to sign up on a list to have a surgery. They would open up your left back and take out half of your left lung. And that's like low key how you got rid of tuberculosis in 1952. So they signed up for their surgeries. My grandpa got his surgery first. He got out the hospital. Like, he told me about 6 months after that, my grandma got her surgery and then she got out. And he was there the day to pick her up. And from there, you know, they had a family. And, you know, in a nutshell, I'll keep it short. I won't keep you guys here all day, all night. In a nutshell, you know, they had 8 kids, and I'm a product of that. So I'm low key like I'm a product of a virus. I'm a product of this quarantine love. So to me, as you know, I'm infatuated with the idea of love. I love writing love poems. I love reading them. You know, I just love the idea of love. So to me, that's the most romantic Indian love story like I've ever heard in my life. The most, you know, to know that they went through all that suffering, that hardship, you know, and that's how resilient our Native people are, right? Even through disease, quarantine, death, genocide, we still find a way to love each other, connect, have families, keep our language and keep our stories, even though we're being, you know, oppressed or, you know, sick or anything like that. So that's the poem that's dedicated to my grandparents and their love. So I'll keep it pushing here. So the second story I wanted to read you guys, the second poem I wanted to read to everybody is called My Body, My Story. Natana ya na hathada. Consent coercion is the name of the game. Monopoly is what my brown body has been played. The victims are not the ones to blame. No one sees our shame. I've heard the songs of the caged bird, and I've seen the salmon fight the current upstream. I ask my ancestors for the guidance to help me heal. Sometimes I pray for that on a bended knee. You lift our voices, but do not let us sing a song you want to hear. I pull out my drum and I bang it next to your ear. Do you hear our voice when we say no? Did you ask for consent before you took her, our home? Indigenous people are beautiful, strong, and resilient. It's hard for me to express this in English because our indigenous languages are so brilliant. Natina ya na hathida. You may think that you have taken our bodies and our land, but what colonization failed to teach you is that these stories reside deep, buried inside our DNA, just like a brand. And I wrote that poem and dedicated it to all survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, and an acknowledgement that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we'll keep going here. So this next poem is like low-key in the same kind of category. It's called A Prayer and a Call to Action. Missing and murdered Indigenous women. It is not our fate to be at the highest rate of sexual violence. The predators perpetrate, they use colonization and loopholes in the laws to instigate. We ask our senators, Congress, and representatives this question. If it happened to your mother, sister, or daughter, then would you be able to relate? Let the next 7 generations know that there is no need to propagate the hate that has been given, but to stand up, rise, and revel in our traditions. Speak your language and always respect women. Use your medicine in a good way. Gather around your elders and listen. Missing and murdered Indigenous women, it is not our fate. For all my relations, let's stand up, spread awareness, and educate. Missing and murdered Indigenous women, you are in my prayers every single day. It is time to end the violence. Beautiful, strong Indigenous women, you are loved, and this is our time to congregate. Prayers, love, and a call to action will prevail hate. So I wrote this poem and dedicated it in the memory of my auntie Geraldine China Hendrickson. Her Northern Arapaho name is Nahach, which translates to morning star. And I'll just give a quick story about my aunt. If you know me or know any of the work that I low-key do in Coast Salish territory, you probably have heard this story. So I started working at Pathways to Healing in 2016, and that's when the MMIW movement started picking up in the USA. For Canada, it's already been, happening, and that grassroots movement was already happening in Canada. And for me, in my eyes, it trickled down into the United States after Standing Rock. So for me, Standing Rock, in 2015, Standing Rock lit a fire in Indian country for me, spiritually, metaphorically, and physically. So when I got this job at Pathways to Healing, and then the MMI movement, started happening, I just knew in my heart, this is the time to talk about it. For me, I just go by gut feelings, intuition. Of course, I always ask my elders and I look for guidance through my mom and people in my community. And everybody encouraged me and told me this was appropriate to tell her story. So my auntie's name is Geraldine Nahach Hendrickson. She was born June 21st, 1964 in Seattle. She is number 5 of 6 children from my grandparents, Philip and Lily. She's an enrolled member of the Northern Arapaho tribe, and she's also Chupich, just like me. She's a mother to 2 beautiful women, grandmother to 4 grandchildren, a daughter, a sister, and the best auntie in the world. She would have turned 56 this year. She was about 5'4", 130 pounds. She was very petite and was smaller than me. And to me, she truly was the brightest light in any room. Growing up, she liked to ride horses, attend powwows, and she loved school. But more so importantly, she was loved by her family and she loved life. Unfortunately, about 22 years ago, my aunt was murdered in downtown Seattle. And prior to that, she was in King County Jail here in Seattle for about 18 months for the murder of her own partner prior to her murder. And that's a whole long story, but like I said, I use that story to educate people in my community, mostly non-Native people, mostly people who are just now learning about the MMIW movement. I know definitely it's not a unique one. What's not unique about it is the racism and the bias and racism that my auntie faced in King County courtrooms, Washington courtrooms. But we all know that that's just what Native people experience on a daily basis when we come in contact with any people who are in position of power, especially our government. So like I said, I use that story to educate people, and I definitely honor her in that way the best I can. So I will keep it pushing. So the third poem I'm going to read y'all. The fourth one. So I have like 3 or 4 that are going to be like dedicated to land and water. I'm just kind of touching base on some things. And I wrote these when I did a collaboration with For Culture. They were calling out for people to write about water. And that's, like I said, Pisces gang. I love Seattle, live by the water. So of course, you know, to bust out 3 or 4 poems about water or the land I love wasn't too hard. So here's the first one. This one's title is Duwamish River. Waiting patiently in the September sun for the Chinook, Pinks, and Cohos to run. I see them jumping and fighting against the flow of the water. As I lay my hand in, my mind begins to wander. I thank the Creator for my friends, my family, and my enemies. I close my eyes and let the power of the water delegate my extremities. I pray that the salmon never give up and they reach their place of birth, that they gather around each other, spawn, and replenish our earth. A simple little prayer from a lone Indigenous girl who now lives along the Duwamish and loves to watch the tide unfurl. Our ancestors said, when the tide is out, the table is set. So I grabbed my line, some boots, a bucket, and a net. The spirit of the Duwamish people is still alive and well. It rests here on the land you stand on, so learn their story and learn it well. From the mouth of the Alki to the last stretch in the Bend Up River, there is no stopping. You have a special obligation to advocate for the water, and Chief Seattle, Siach, is watching. Haho, Guyana. So I dedicate this poem to the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish tribe. And you know, I could barely speak my own languages, Hanane and Chupich. You know, so there's a couple Coast Salish, I mean, there's 2 Coast Salish words in there, and I just Googled Vi Hilbert, who's a well-known Lushootseed speaker of the Coast Salish country. And that's their language up here in the Pacific Northwest is Lushootseed. And I heard, I'm trying to pronounce what she said, and Duwamish, what I heard in the recording from Vi was Duwapsh, and Chief Seattle is Siach. And so the reason, so the story behind the poem is, I'll try to keep it short and simple, but you know, it's hard when you get into like race and social justice and bodies and water, you know what I mean? So if you're not familiar once again with Coast Salish country, Seattle, the first people to land were the Duwamish people. When pioneers and the westward expansion start happening, coming over, the story isn't unique, right? White people came onto this land, they kicked all the natives out. And it wasn't just like, it wasn't like the white people made their camp 5 miles away. No, they literally came to where all their longhouses, their home, right on their land, and beat them and burnt down their longhouses and kicked them out. So the Duwamish tribe is not federally recognized tribe. And so when people talk about the history and the culture, I'm like, why? You know, it's the irony and the bias and the racism behind it, right? So they came here, they took the Duwamish people land, they kicked the Duwamish people out, and then they named the city after the Duwamish people tribal leader, Chief Seattle, which I heard Vi Hilbert say Siach. So, you know, not only that, do they steal your land and water, they try to take the name and they butcher the actual, how you pronounce names, right? So Seattle isn't like truly was his name, it was Siach, Chief Siach. But anyways, people always ask me that story, and when I go out and I talk in the community, I say, okay, well, guess what? You know why the Duwamish tribe isn't federally recognized? Because guess what would happen if they were? you know, Alki Beach, where the most popular tourist spot in Seattle. If you come to Seattle, if you're a tourist here, you Google whatever, they're gonna tell you the first place to go to Alki Beach. Not only is it amazing right by the water, you get amazing views of the, you know, city and the Space Needle. So I was telling them, I guess what, if the Duwamish tribe was federally recognized, guess what Seattle would have to give up? They'd have to give up Alki Beach, because that's the traditional homelands of Duwamish people, and guess who would be paying rent? Amazon, Microsoft, you know what I'm saying? All these amazing, huge corporations that is now what made Seattle a tech city or whatever it is today, they'd be the ones paying rent. So shout out to Real Rent Seattle, shout out to the Duwamish tribe. There's a whole thing here that I've never seen any other city do. There's something called Real Rent Seattle, Real Rent Duwamish, where people, the 1 million residents that live in Seattle, which a huge percentage of them are white, they could go pay into their white guild. So you could go online and pay your rent. You live, if you're a non-native person living here on Seattle land, traditional territories of the Duwamish people, you could go pay your rent, because you know the federal recognition has been a long, hard-fought battle, and it's probably ain't coming anytime soon. But you could go help this tribe, you could go help their people. So shout out Real Rent Duwamish. Next poem. So this one I wrote for Poetry on Buses, and there was like a 75-word limit to it, so it's actually like a really short poem. I was really inspired by that. I think this is the first poem I incorporated my native language in, and it's been really fun for me. It's been really healing. Translating my poems into Hanana Ati, and that's my first, I learned Hanana Ati before I learned Chupik, and that's because I was raised by my grandmother mainly. And that's matrilineal, right? So my grandmother was Northern Rapo, my grandfather was the one who was Chupik. So that just really comes easier to me than Chupik. I'm really thankful, like I said, to have those moments with my 86-year-old upper. He teaches me language, he teaches me Chupik, and I get to have these amazing language lessons with him. But there's Chupik is super hard language. But anyways, so water is life. Water is life. Don't forget the water. So I take my hand off my paddle and lay my fingers into the water and introduce myself. Remember the spirit. 3 days no water, 3 days in the sun. I pray our minds become one. Mani wachoni, nech ni inne ditanit. Water is life. And now I'm gonna say that same poem in Hanana Ati, Northern Rapo. Chibe nani hi nech. Wa was sad na nachat. Jawu ha na he thi thana. Chiche hi nech na ni na. Chibe na ni hi che tha wu. Nasa hisi, Hawuni net. Nasa hisi, Chitihi hisis. Hawa yen dina. Ni neath jadna. Nithi nina. Sorry, don't laugh at my broken rapo. It's actually been a long time since I said that poem rapo too. So I dedicate this poem, Water is Life, to all my sun dancers back home and all the canoe journey people here in Coast Salish country. Just because it's dedicated to water. Water is a huge factor to a lot of our ceremonies, right? And us as Native people, we know that. So it's not a surprise why No DAPA was such a huge movement and why that's continued to be a source of strength when we look back to a lot of our race and social justice movements, just like AIM was, and just like in the 70s, the fishing wars and all that stuff. Shout out once again, Northern Rapo tribe. Yesterday was my tribe put out a day of prayer yesterday, Friday, April 24th. Because the coronavirus is, like most tribal communities, affecting us in a really horrible way. We have a lot of confirmed cases on the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming right now. And unfortunately, we just had the first 4 people pass away. I think a couple of them were elders of my tribe. So just want to give a shout out to my tribe and let them know that you guys stay in my prayer, and that the Creator guides our loved ones as they make their journey into the next world, and gives all my relations, all my loved ones back home strength to carry on in this one without them. And to ask the Creator to watch over my people, all Indian nations, but even more specifically, my Northern Arapaho people, our language, our way of life, and all those old folks out there that are trying to encourage us all, just like this programming, to stay home and to protect ourselves and our family. Big chafet and y'all. So next poem. So Wind River, I made this not too long ago. So this one's also dedicated to water, and even more specifically to the Wind River that runs through my reservation, the Wind River Indian Reservation. And the title of the poem is Hate Nichi. And that's how you say Wind River in Northern Arapaho. Hate Nichi. There is a flower for every bee underneath your cottonwood trees. My mind always finds ease when drinking warm tea from your wild peppermint leaves. This Hananae Hisei has no worries, and I can't be bothered just by the thought of treading in your waters. The 25 glaciers that trickle down and encapsulate our mountains travels underground and miles through a cave. It splashes, gurgles, and carves through rock to create that wave. The Poposia sinks and rises, just like the geography of this beautiful land. Riverton, Lander, Hudson, call it what you want. This water flows through Indian land. The Creator only knows what I would give to be free. Floating in your current, my Wind River is the only thing I need. A place to call me home and live a simple life. If I wasn't married to the moon, dear water, I'd be your wife. Hate Nichi, besides the Wind River, is where I want to live. Wasu Hana, up by Mill Creek, is where my family came to be. Niase, by the shores of our lakes. Nichi Haha, your spirit conjuring at the forks of all our rivers is something to be thankful for. We call it Nech, water. So this next poem is dedicated. I see, I'm reading off obviously off these things. I see at the bottom like who I'm dedicating them to. And once again, this was dedicated to my Northern Arapaho people. So shout out Northern Arapaho tribe. Okay, I'm almost done, y'all. I got one more poem, one more start, and it's a wrap for me. Y'all can get rid of me after this. I'm sure you're getting tired of me by now. So this last poem is called Concrete Longhouse. The concrete longhouse is my home. It is where I lay my head at night. My relatives ask me if I'll ever have a place to call my own. I tell them I'm going to forever be part of the night. Before I took this long road to the place I am sitting, I looked to the sky, saw the moons and the stars, and knew I had a purpose. I am not forgotten or invisible. I am your sister, cousin, lover, father, mother, brother, and uncle. We celebrate our kinships and uplift each other. Take the time to pray and strategize so the next 7 generations won't have to continue to fight the people who monopolize. Off our existence and the inherent right to live life in a good way, to speak our language, fish, hunt, and teach our children the old way. Sometimes I am hungry and sometimes I am sad, but when I think of the love of my ancestors and my community, I know if we work together, we could come up with a plan to end urban and indigenous homelessness and homelessness all across our lands. So I dedicate this to our relatives who have experienced homelessness and that struggle with mental health issues. So I basically wrote this poem recently. The story behind this poem is dedicated to my uncle. My uncle William, who I love, I just saw him a couple weeks ago, is an amazing character. He loves to fish just like me, like all these things run in the family, right? He's a fisherman, he's a jokester, he loves to talk crap, and you know what I mean? And unfortunately, like he's experienced homelessness the last majority of his adult life. In my family, unfortunately, that is not unique. Growing up, you know, I was, like I said, I was born and raised in South End, Seattle. Shout out South End. And I grew up going to Chief Seattle Club, Seattle Indian Health Board, United Indians, you know, Daybreak Star. So I'm literally a product of my surroundings, which all these amazing Native organizations that have amazing histories and are Native led and Native ran. So to keep it short, I recently am a part of the Native Action Network Legacy of Leadership cohort. It's a 10-month cohort where they get 12 women from the coast, Native women from Coast Salish area to uplift them, inspire them, bring them together, and just have like a little think tank of Indigenous matriarchal power and love. So they divvy us up into 3 projects, and the project that I'm involved in is called Indigizine. It's a zine project that is gonna be community-led here in the urban Native community. And so the first thing we came up with was, let's go to Chief Seattle Club. And it is amazing. Chief Seattle Club has, like I said, amazing history, and they serve specifically serve Native people who are experiencing homelessness in this urban Seattle area. And I grew up going there. So it was not only amazing and an honor for me to partner with them to create this zine, but we wanted to offer workshops within Chief Seattle Club for our relatives to come and do whatever they need to do, bead, photography, poetry. So within that, Chief Seattle Club was like, hey, we already have some poems. Go ahead and look through these and we could publish these in your zine. So as I'm flipping through poems, guess what pops out? About like 12, 13 poems from my Uncle William that I had no idea about. There's this whole nother side to my uncle. I had no idea. I had no idea one of my favorite uncles was a poet. So I was like blown away. For me, it was meant to be another sign from the creator that I'm meant to be doing what I'm doing in this time and place. So with that being said, I'm gonna read one of my uncle's poems. Sorry, I should already had this teed up. So give me a hot second. Shout out my Uncle William. Red Poets. Okay, so this poem is called That Challenge by William Hendrickson. My challenge is to try to keep the community from taking charge mentally, and putting that aside is sometimes trying, but never a dull moment on that journey. It is my Mount Everest to climb, and only I can have that access. And I'm gonna read you one more by my uncle. Once again, sorry for not having this teed up. Like I said, I'm a procrastinator. Okay, here it is. I think this is my favorite one of his. So there's, like I said, there's like 13 poems that came out of that. I was just like blown away. And I'm so happy to find this. So this is my favorite poem by my uncle. It's called Remnants. Brown, white, gold metro buses, Sunny Jim, Rainier Brewery, the Donut Shop, Smith Tower, the Turf, Boeing, the Flight Museum. These are just some of the remnants of a Seattle you will never see again. And I love this poem so much because it was true then whenever he wrote that, like in 2010, and now we're fast forwarding 10 years and Seattle's a whole different place. They got rid of the Alaskan Way Viaduct. We have like an underground tunnel here. What else? They took down something else recently that was like, it's like so different than like growing up. And all in, you know, context of everything, whatever you want to call it, gentrification, you know, time changes everything, people change, but you know what I mean? That poem really struck to my heart because I think that all the time when I look around at my city, and the Native communities are even more displaced, you know, than other nationalities and other communities. So growing up, there were so many Natives in the South End, and now that you look at it, like they've all been pushed out because of rent spikes, because Amazon is such a huge thing around here. Microsoft, rent spikes up, and all the Natives keep getting pushed more and more south. So even in terms of our vibrant urban Native community that we have in Seattle, even that's changing too. But with that, I just wanted to thank all you amazing artists, the people who invited me here today to share my little poetry. Thank you for listening. I want to shout out all the people who support me, all my friends, my family, my enemies, my loved one. I love you all. And I just want to also promote that message: stay home. The best ways we could protect our family, our loved ones, our language, our way of life, our communities, these ceremonies that we look so forward to in the summertime, canoe journeys, Sundance, is to stay home and do your best to protect yourself. Face mask, try to be proactive in that context. People, I'm not trying to like promote stereotypes, but it took me a really hard time to like wear a seatbelt. I used to hate wearing a seatbelt, and now I'm getting used to wearing a face mask. You know what I mean? I'm getting used to using hand sanitizer all the time. So definitely to tell our youth and our young ones to stay home, protect yourself, and yeah, I'll leave you guys with that. Love, peace, and fire bread grease, my natives.
All right, thank you for that, Chelsea. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Chelsea Hendrickson, all the way from Seattle, Washington, Northwest region of the world. This is so great that this art gallery idea here is bringing all of us together here from all across the different parts of the country during this time. And it's pretty cool. She had a lot of great messages to share. And so shout out to all the organizations that she works for and all the people that she's involved with and that she helps up there in the Northwest region. So again, thank you, Chelsea. Thank you for contributing to those poems to this event tonight. Those of you who are just now tuning in or who have been tuning in here, this is the third edition of the Indigenous Peoples Art Gallery live virtual poetry reading series. This is idea that I had to promote the message of staying home. So all you young people out there, let's do our part by staying home during this time and taking care of our elders and those who are very important to us in our tribal communities. Shout out to all the healthcare workers who are on the front lines doing their part, and also to those who are, going through this affected. Again, do our part. Let's stay home. Like the page, the Indigenous Peoples Art Gallery and Cafe art gallery page. And again, we got a writing call out for Indigenous poets. If you want to be featured live and exclusively on this virtual platform, submit your bio and a video and send that to indigenousartalliance@gmail.com, and we'll have our people look at it and we'll get back to you. The first 5 people selected will get a signed autographed book from Tanea Winder. She was on our show last week. So get your videos in, and we'll get you showcased here on this platform. Again, support Indigenous artists. If you go to the page, there's links there with all of the past performers who've been on here. So again, get out and support all of our artists. With that, I'm going to jump into a poem I wrote again, just here between the last show and this show. All you artists out there, keep creating, keep keeping yourself busy, come out of this situation better, because things are going to change after this. Things ain't going to be normal, and we got to come out better. So with that, I'm going to get into, before we get into our next reader, I'm going to share this little poem I wrote for you. This one is titled, "It Be That Way for a Native." It be that way for a native, ducking and dodging your way through life, but you're coming out all right. Blessings on blessings, I gotta say, like rolling on a quarter tank, yet waking up every day and maintaining some way. No matter what order the songs play, it's still the same. So enjoy the dance, cause you might only get one. Well, that's what the old ones say. And even though it's sometimes difficult to navigate your way, and you have to hold your breath at least 10 times a day, and choose between going the ski mask way or to meditate and pray, just remember, raking leaves in the wind doesn't get you paid. It'd be like that for a native. It could be a nice day when 12 roll up behind you in the fast lane, roaches in the ashtray. Do I have warrants? Flashes through my mind on replay. My eyes flicker to my rear view, then to my speedometer. Check the barometer. It's like 45 gets me, 25 to life, because I'm so deadly with these words, like a dull knife in a bar fight on a good night at closing time. And I'm cased up just trying to keep the night going. I should have been knowing. Keep going, but don't speed up when the light turns yellow, because life is gonna throw hits like Canelo. So be like Floyd and let him pass. Take time to do the math. We're 92 million miles away from the sun. Picture that. It be like that for a native, ducking and dodging, navigating through life. Some don't come out, some come out all right. Blessings on blessings, lessons are blessings. Prayers are destined to get us through. Blessings on blessings when 12 just passes by. Lessons are blessings when you sleep in your bed at night. It be like that for a native. And all we got is the boss to get us through. So again, to all you young Indigenous artists out there, keep creating, keep trying to stay on that positive vibe to get us through this, because I know uncertainty can be scary sometimes, and we all want to get back to our lives and get out there and get back to things, but we got to do our part and stay home and let this stuff pass, because our elders and our children are what's important. Our most vulnerable are sick. And so just keep creating, keep writing, keep painting, whatever your medium is. With that, I'm going to get into our next reader, who I'm very, very excited and I'm very honored to have here as a part of our event tonight, coming all the way from across the waters, which is so exciting. It's like, what? Gina Cole, a writer, poet, who has a master's in creative writing from the University of Auckland. She's published in several publications. She's won many awards and things for her poems and writing. Black Ice Matter is her first book published. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very honored and privileged to welcome all the way from New Zealand, Gina Cole.
Thank you, Dawson. Thank you for having me on this event. It's a real honor. Tēnā koutou katoa, malolele talofa lava, nisan bulavanaka. Greetings in the Fijian language, good health, good life. I am of Fijian descent on my mother's side from the islands of Serua and Onoilau in Fiji, which Fiji is an island nation in the South Pacific. My father is Kaivalangi, which is the Fijian word for European or white, and he is of Scottish and Welsh descent. I was born and raised in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm a second generation immigrant to New Zealand. So my ancestors come from Fiji, as I've said. I live in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, on the Māori tribal land of the Ngāti Whātua Iwi. Here in Aotearoa, we are in week 5 of a nationwide lockdown. What I'm going to read today for you is a piece of creative nonfiction prose, which I wrote in the first week of lockdown. The title of this piece is A Mask of Isolations. And it's a series of 7 paragraphs or vignettes about my experience of week 1 in lockdown. The first paragraph is called Resistance. Resistance. My 86-year-old father has COPD. He is resistant to staying at home. He wants to go to the supermarket at the mall to buy a bottle of Merlot. Stay home, I say. I'll bring you the Merlot. Going to the supermarket is like a military operation. Pam and I plan our route to Pack and Save and walk there with day packs on our backs. Pam joins the queue of people snaking out along the footpath and around the edge of the car park. I wave at her in the line. She wears a bright pink neck gaiter pulled up over her mouth and nose, and white vinyl disposable gloves from the box in the kitchen drawer. I sit on a bare piece of dirt in the car park that might once have been a landscaped garden. The plants are straggly now, but it's a sunny spot, and I can wait there alone, scrolling and reading the news on my phone. A man marches past me with a shopping bag scrunched in his hand. His body is squat and muscly. He joins the line and starts shouting, "I have a baby at home. Do any of you have a baby? Don't you understand? Keep 2 meters away." Heads turn, people whisper to each other and shuffle away from him. Everyone settles into a vigilant silence, the whites of their eyes flashing in sidelong glances. Later, Pam and I distribute the food between our packs: cans of tomatoes, no alcohol beer from Japan, chocolate, potatoes, dishwashing liquid, Vogel's bread, butter. She forgot the Merlot. 2, home. At night in bed, I think of all the people in the world asleep in their homes. I've never thought of them before. I don't want to invite them all in, but they're all there, crowding in all day, every day. Buddies make contact from everywhere, like the friends I made on the writing residency in Iowa, writers from all over the world. The writer from Algeria expects a flood of dystopian fiction will follow, and he's not happy about it. He arrived at the residency late, delayed by visa issues, the only one of us to stay in a place outside the hotel. We all envied him, living in a well-appointed cottage, all on his own, in the grounds of a luxurious house in a quiet wooded area. He put on a party for us one night. We walked over the bridge and up the hill, and we saw deer walking through the trees. He envied us, all living together in the hotel by the river. When mask-wearing protesters started rallying in the streets of Hong Kong, the writer from Hong Kong left early to be with his girlfriend, drawn home by a crisis of a different kind. The writer from Algeria took over his hotel room, happy to be home in the hotel by the river with the rest of us. This third one is called whānau, which is the Māori word for family. My brother on the Gold Coast hasn't said anything in the whānau messenger group set up by my other brother from Masterton so that we can keep in touch during the COVID-19 pandemic. Does he see the photos my sister posts of her dogs sitting next to each other on the balcony, looking into the lens of the camera, posing obediently in the corner next to the tempered glass panels? Behind the dogs, rolling sand dunes on the far side of Opanoni Harbour lead out to the heads, where the water drains in and out, a shifting biotic mass in rhythmic pulse with the Tasman Sea. I wonder if my brother from the GC lurks in the ether in a watching brief from across the waves. I picture him swimming in a pool while his dog runs up and down on the deck. He throws water and the dog barks and jumps, snapping at falling droplets. On day 6, my 83-year-old mother messages us to say she's going for a walk. She makes no mention of Dad and his wine needs. Number 4, silence. I wake to an eerie silence. I can hear the wind skimming over the roof, shuffling leaves in the treetops. A swirling siren beats in the distance. The cops must be busy. A lonely cricket chirps from somewhere down the long driveway, her song curling into the day. When we walk in the park, we watch the magpies swooping into the trees. They sit in staggered branches, a legislature of magpies, cawing at us from their perches as if they know something is up. Sparrows congregate in large hosts in the middle of the field, pecking at the ground. We skirt around them, not wanting to disturb their important work. We navigate between 2 peaceful seagulls sitting on the field, their chests puffed up, brilliant white against red bills. The smaller one stands up and walks away as we approach, an unconcerned waddle, but keeping an eye on us. Returning from the park, we see a tui in the tree outside our house, hopping from branch to branch beneath the sparrows' nests. She stops and sings into the gaps, clothing the new silence in knocking and clicking and melodic lilting. It's not that I didn't see the birds' antics or hear the insects and the tui singing in the before time. It's just that the cars and the factories and the stonk and hustle suffocated my attention. Now the air is clearer, the sky is bluer, the silence is free, and my senses are hyper aware. Number 5, backyard. I download the free Les Mills classes onto my phone. I lay out an old roll of thick memory foam on the strip of grass in the backyard. One of us would sleep on it during camping trips. The other one slept on a canvas roll that self-inflates. I think we went camping once, twice maximum. I still have the collapsible gas stove and gas canisters stored somewhere in the garage. I will find them if the electricity cuts out and we need to fry up some potatoes. The phone screen is too small, lying at crooked angles on the grass while I am trying to stand in mountain pose and watch the sequence and listen to instructions all at the same time. And sunstrike is a problem, washing out the screen. Paspalum grass is growing tall, flicking my face in downward dog. The sticky black seed heads remind me of playtime at primary school. I ran around in the grass a lot in those days and recall always having the tiny black seeds stuck to my legs. I am now spending more time running around in long grass and remembering. The 2 women teaching the balance class are standing on an oval platform in the shallows of a river in a glaciated valley with the rocky faces of mountains rising in the background. It is a sun-drenched day in Fiordland. The water is blue and clear and sparkling. They smile and joke and laugh as a drone camera flies in a circle overhead while they balance on one leg and lean forward into the aeroplane posture. All I can think is, how did they fix the platform into the river? Did they drill legs into the riverbed? Number 6, time. Watching reality television is like watching a world that used to be. Establishment shots pan across thronging crowds of people walking the streets of Sydney. It already feels strange to see people in that before time, oblivious to the shift about to occur in their existence. The contestants' only concern is to hold an in-depth discussion on the vexed question of who will turn up to the pub. To see them all congregating in such large numbers is a marvel. I want to shout at them to stop being so stupid. but I am unable to yell at the television. Maybe if I saw them in the flesh, I could tell them, like the man at the supermarket shouting at the shoppers. The world has changed in a couple of spins, evaporating the before-time illusion. It is strange to feel nostalgic for a time that was only 3 weeks ago. I think it must be this way whenever the world changes, before silence and after silence. Number 7, cat fight. We were fighting about when to take the cat to the after-hours vet clinic to get her stitches out, before dinner or after dinner. We settle on after dinner, after the reality show finale. The cat is silent in her wire cage when we drive to the vet. I balk at the sight of the doorbell. I pluck a leaf from a vine growing out of the asphalt and wrap it over my forefinger as a doorbell guard. I am finding inventive ways to avoid touching surfaces created for human hands and fingers. I use leaves and tissues and pebbles to tap keypads. I kick my toe up to push the walk button at pedestrian crossings. I control taps with my elbows. One time I forgot and hopped onto the airwalker in the park. Grabbing onto the orange steel frame, soft and warm and smooth from all the hands that had touched it. It felt wrong, the way falling in a dream feels wrong, but you can't stop it. I snatched my hands away and jumped off, hoping no one had seen me. I walked home holding my hands out from my sides as if poison were dripping off my fingertips. White sap drips from the stalk of the vine leaf. I place the cat cage on the ground and step back. The vet opens the door. She is wearing a white papery apron, loosely tied behind her back and fluttering over green scrubs. A green mask over her mouth and nose. A transparent plastic eye shield and translucent surgical gloves. She takes the cage and retreats into the surgery. We wait in the car until the vet brings the cage out to us. The cat curls up, calm and motionless in her cage, stitch-free and watchful. There are no other cars on the road. All the way home, we stare into the darkness. Thanks, Dawson. Thanks very much for having me. That's it.
All right, everybody, let's get a virtual round of applause for Gina Cole for being a part of this event. This is our third installment of the live virtual poetry reading series. Um, so again, thank you, coming all the way from New Zealand, which is pretty cool. And that's kind of the idea. And the cool thing about what we're doing here is bringing people, Indigenous people from all across, uh, everywhere, to come and share their stories and their poetry. And so, with that, again, I just want to remind you and keep reiterating that message that we got a call out for Indigenous poets and writers. um, Send your bio and video, just of your work, saying your poem, your spoken word poem, lyrics if you're a hip hop artist. Send that stuff to the Indigenous Art Alliance at gmail.com, and we'll get our people to look at it. And you could be here on this virtual stage showcasing your work as well. So again, share with your friends and your relatives about that. Also, like the page, like the Indigenous Art Gallery and cafe page, because we got a lot of things coming up again in the future, the next couple weeks. Here at home on the Meskwaki settlement, we've had our shelter in place extended, so we're going to be doing this for a while. And with that, again, like the page, like the Midwest Writing Center page, shout out to them for once again partnering with us to do this, to bring this to you. So like their page, they got a lot of things going on throughout the week as well. You know, a lot of cool things. Support our past artists and support Indigenous artists. You know, there's a link on our page with some of the past performers, their information and things like that. Because you know we've all had, as independent artists, had our lives impacted as well by what is going on with this pandemic. And again, this whole thing, this whole reason why we're here is to promote the message of staying home. So all you young people in our tribal communities, please stay home, do our part, take care of our elders, by staying home, and you know just keep creating, keep writing, keep painting, whatever it is that you do, beadwork, sewing, all of that good stuff. You know, and if you get some work and stuff like that, you know, hit us up. You know, we'll get it showcased on our Facebook page and our Instagram page, and share your work and help get you promoted. With that, you know, I'm gonna get into another poem I wrote just before, earlier today, before this event, and I didn't really have a title for it, but I just wanted to again share some of my poetry, and just again bring home that message of keep creating, keep doing your craft, and trying to come out of this situation a better person. So, with that, here's a little poem I wrote, real quick. No title. Why must we wait for something tragic to happen in order to act? Go through things over and over before we learn. Only a fool stumbles going back. Words, lost to foreign language, like a war going on for centuries, over the soil inhabited by 30 million lexicons. Polytheistic strangers roam the plateaus, dancing, singing, chanting, praying that nothing tragic happens before it's too late, like millions of years before this day. Probably they first discovered fire, or maybe a short time before, when just a glow floating around in a Cadillac 6'4". Listen to old R&B hits, painted epitaphs on 300-foot stone cliffs with hidden scrolls in the crevices of time, with the knowledge and secrets to help you get by and move mindfully, carefully, like setting up a chessboard. Think before you move. Pray for a clear path and safe passage through the dark forest. So again, thank you all for giving me your time tonight. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here with us at the Indigenous Peoples Art Gallery and Cafe. Again, keep creating, stay home, protect our elders. It is my privilege and honor our next up and coming performer. I'm very, very excited and honored and thankful that she's given up her time to be a part of this. Jackie Bird is a member of the Sistian tribe and the 3 affiliated tribes of the Dakotas. Jackie Bird is a songwriter, a singer, a composer, a fancy dancer, a hoop dancer, and an artist. She's got some really great art out there. So it is my pleasure and my honor, ladies and gentlemen, to bring you Jackie Bird.
Hello. Can you hear me, Dawson? Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Again, I am Jackie Bird from the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Dakota Oyate. My dad, he's a rock and roller, and he's also mentioned in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for his rock and roll. And my mom, she's a Dakota, and she's mentioned in the Hall of Fame for her artwork. And I really enjoyed listening to the other ladies speak. And a shout out to the Mari lady because it was a few years ago that I was over in Australia and I got to meet some Maori ladies, and they did this amazing hands-on healing, and they prayed, and I spent time with them, and they did their dances. So I was happy to hear her accent. So I'm gonna sing a song, and I just asked the elders to oversee me as I sing this, and it's a song that I made in honor of the white buffalo calf woman, Ptesawi, and I'll sing it. It was a cold winter evening, and the camp grew quiet at the end of the night, and the children were sleeping under their buffalo robes. Before the sun rose the next morning, there was an image standing outside in the snow. She was of love and laughter and beauty, and Papa followed. She said, brothers, don't you worry, that I know you're shaking deep down inside. Beyond the dark cloud, there's a bright blue sky. Oh, yonder came me dog, oh, yeah. Always spirit, we are one. She looked to the east, to the south, the west. Then she started walking to the north. Then she turned around and gently waved her hand. The horses, the buffalo began to bow. The people stood still. Then she faded away upon the hill. Oh, yonder came me dog, oh, yeah. Always spirit, we are one. Brothers and sisters, don't ever fear, the power is so near. Oh, yeah, me dog, oh, yeah. You're never all alone. So I made that song, and I'm really grateful that you invited me to be on your show, and all your readers, everybody on there, and you are all inspiring, very inspiring. So Wopira Tanka, Madzigiraz. Thank you. And I know the Davenports, Dana and Allison. So I know you guys are all overachievers, not just high, overachievers. So they were my role models back in Flandre Indian School. And they were really good in basketball, and mainly basketball. And then now Dana inspires me in fancy shawl dancing. She said, come on, they have a category for us, Golden Age, woohoo! Well, I'm almost there. I'm getting there. So so that song, what inspired me to make that song was honoring the four directions. The west are where the protectors come from, and the like the police or the Akichita, like the soldiers, and the ancestors in the past is from the west. Then into the north, the strength comes, and Ptesawi, the buffalo, the Tatanka Oyate comes from there. The elders, the wisdom keepers, and then into the east are the future Wakanija, the children. So that's in the east, and it's the good guidance, and it's where the sun rises every morning. And when you wake up before the sun and greet it, then you will have a full charged day when you meet the father's son. And then into the south are where the gifts come from. We all have gifts and our purpose. And so I always look into the south, that all the gifts that I'm borrowing that the Creator installed and let me use, may I use these to the fullest to help others. And so that's what that song was all inspired by, was when she looked to the east, to the south, the west, then she started walking to the north, then she turned around and gently waved her hand. So I guess I never tried to write poetry, but I write songs. So that's pretty much the same thing, huh? Okay. So I probably have time for it one more, right? Okay. I think I'll sing one. This is my guitar. So I'm gonna use it like a drum. And here's a song that I made. And it was I'm glad that I'm telling you about this. This was a song that I made from a dream. And in the dream, I fell really hard. Like I fell someplace and hit the ground so hard that I forgot I existed. And so for the longest time, I was non-existent until finally I opened my eyes and I realized I was paralyzed and I couldn't move, and all I could do was see. And there was a beam of light coming down, and the light was recognizing that it was time for me to get up and move again. So then the light was brighter than the sunlight. So they always say Creator's light is the glory of God is brighter than the sun. So Creator's light was shining, and then all of a sudden I could move, and then I noticed there was a silhouette of an eagle over me, and then I moved more, and then I could hear all these tones in the universe, and then the healing tones, the love and the light turned me to an eagle. So then I had these wings of an eagle, and so I made a 49 song out of that, and I got the lyrics from remembering the dream, and then I got the melody through the window through my wind. I mean, from the wind through my window, and I was driving on it like in a winter storm, and then the window, it was howling on the way back from LNI on I-90, and it goes like this. Your songs, your touch turn me to eagle. So that's the song that I composed from a dream, and then the way the wind was coming through the window, because a lot of times we can get songs from our dream time, tones from the dreams or the wind, maybe from songs, or even looking at the land. Something like I got this one from Wind River, and the mountains, the Rockies, they were going like this. I'm trying to stay in the picture, and so that's how it was going. And then so I made a song like this. I can really jam, but then I'd have to get way back there. Okay, I'll just get a little bit back. Even though you're far away, there's no distance to me. So then I borrowed that one from the Rockies. I got all ready, like I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I got my guitars, and then I have my little bitty grandmother that's just gonna sing one little bitty love song real quick. She wore her best dress. See them, Grandma? There's him. Okay, Dawson. Yeah. See? You look nice with your beret. Should we bring Grandpa? Okay. She wants to bring Grandpa too. She sings all over the place. She likes to snag. Okay. So she finally found Grandpa. His name is Grandpa Jake. That's him. See? Uh-oh.
Oh, what happened? Did we lose Jackie? There we go. We got her back.
Hang in there. There you go. Darn it, we were just on a roll, but you guys are pre-recording, huh? Yeah. Okay. My son was calling. I don't know how to make my calls not come in. Okay. Ready, Grandma? Grandpa? I mean, Grandpa? Grandma? Okay. Can you see us? The host has asked you to start your video, okay? Oh, you can see us? Okay. Here we go again. So Grandma, this is her. She's gonna sing her love song to Grandpa. And I'll help. When I had you, I treated you bad, wrong, my dear. But since you away, don't you know that I sit around with my head hanging down, and I wonder. Okay, how's that? I told him to quit calling because I'm in a live feed. Isn't it, Grandma? Okay, but you're gonna re-edit anyway, huh? Yeah. See, that's why I like this. But since you were away, don't you know that I sit around with my head hanging down, and I wonder. Loving you. Do you like that? Did you want to say anything? Why? Did you? They don't want to say anything. Okay, you guys can go sit over here. Well, thank you, Dawson. So that was my music portion. And if you want me to do anything more, I could. Did you want me to do it? Okay, one more, just in case. So I have my ukulele this time. This is also from a story. It's a story. This is a story about a little star boy. He traveled across the sky and through the night. He heard the children laughing and playing, and they were singing, "Oh, Makia, yeah. Oh, Makia, yo." Starboy jumped into the cottonwood tree. It started shimmering for everyone to see. Something sacred stood its way in the tree. Oh, Makia, yeah, yeah. Starboy, Starboy. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, many places I have been, never to a place like this. Feels so right, feels so right. We're singing, we're spiritual dancing, then the fade away in the sunrise night. You make me love you. Okay, I forgot about singing Lovesick Blues. That thing was going around since 1990, around then. Well, I started singing it in 1985. Whenever I'm away from you, I always get these lovesick blues. Never ever leave me, and I will never leave you. No more crying, no more crying. Hiding my tears in the dark. Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying. Now my world doesn't feel so sad. Chile, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Dawson. Stay safe, mask up, and all that. Midakiasi, we chose an Iframia Vopira. Mazikiras. Thank you. I'm out.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Jackie Bird, for performing, singing a few songs for us. That was really, really great. I'm very, very excited and happy to have you on our show for this third installment of the Stay Home live poetry virtual reading presented here at the Indigenous Peoples Art Gallery and Cafe. I really can't express how excited I am for all of the readers tonight, this evening. Chelsea Hendrickson, all the way from the Northwest region, Seattle region. Uh, Gina Cole coming in all the way from New England, which is wow, that's pretty cool. Thank you for being a part of this and reading, and also for again Jackie Bird for coming on and performing a couple songs for us and kind of capping off the event for this third installment this Saturday night, um, promoting the stay home message again for all of our Indigenous people, all of our tribal communities, do our part by staying home and take care of our communities, our elders, protecting our elders, our young people. Practice physical distancing. If you got to go out, make it in and out. Be mindful of your movement, and just keep tight for a little bit while we get through this, COVID-19 pandemic, that we're all going through. And, it's better to do that, give up this little time by staying home and, coming out of this with all of our loved ones and our relatives all still with us. So again, so much going on with our gallery. We got, again, share the page, like the page, tell your relatives and your family members that we got a lot going on. I got some artwork coming out. I got a lot of other things going on. Also, the writing call for all the Indigenous poets. Said submit your bio and your video to Indigenous Art Alliance at gmail.com. We'll get all of that uh, looked at, and the first 5 people selected will have a opportunity to get a signed autograph book by Tanea Winder. Also, just stay home. Let's do our part. Support all of our past artists. Shout out to Cinnamon, Talon, all of you who were a part of this. There's a link down on our page for you to support them as we are all trying to get through this pandemic together. Shout out to all the healthcare workers for doing your part and despite some of our leadership not doing their part and issuing stay in place orders or anything like that, you guys are the ones out there on the front lines taking care of all of the people affected. So shout out to all of the healthcare workers out there doing their part. And again, thank you all for tuning in. You made it a great evening of poetry and showcasing all of this great talent. And I just want to thank you all for being a part of it and staying home this evening with us. So again, thank you all for tuning in and being a part of it. And thank you again for all the readers and the Midwest Writing Center for partnering with us again to make it happen. So with that, I just want to thank you all and be safe, stay home, and have a good rest of the week. We'll be here again next week with some more artists. So we'll see you. Have a good night.